Hello and welcome to this week's Indo GAA Podcast. We're going a little bit off piste this week as our own Pat Spalan turned 70 earlier this week, so we're doing Spalan at 70. Delighted to be joined by the main man Pat, but firstly delighted to be joined by his former Kerry colleague Mickey Ned O'Sulluvan. Mickey, great to have you with us.
Thank you. Appreciate being on for this special occasion.
And it is indeed a special occasion. It was obviously the 1st of December 1955 when one of the most loved and also one of the most hated people came into this world. Pat, how are you getting on? You've been enjoying the 70 celebrations, no doubt?
Very well, Mike. I just have a bad feeling that I've been walked into something that I'm not ready for. But look, I turned 70, as you know, on Monday. I'm absolutely thrilled to have made it to 70. My father died in his early 40s and never made it into something that, you know, like my wife was saying to the children, you know, how it's so special for me because my father never reached the age. And Mickey will know, well, like we lost a lot of players we played against, but we lost three great colleagues from that great Kerry team, John Egan, Tim Kennelly and Paddy O'Shea. And you know, when you're a footballer and you're so fit, you feel a little bit invincible as a footballer and as you can live forever, but we're human the same as everyone else. And do you know, when I see those three lads, those three former colleagues taken at a young age, the fact that I've reached 70 in a healthy, with good health, a lovely family, and I've had a great career on and off the field, absolutely no regrets, and every day from now on, Michael, is a bonus.
I'll jump to Mickey Ned in a second, Pat, but you're a fresh man. Like you must look after yourself and you must be outside quite a bit as well.
Well, I'm not actually, but
well, sorry, I should have guessed that given the amount of TV you watch. But
no, okay. I mean, I have a bad knee. I have two bad knees now, so unfortunately, I cannot run and I cannot jog. Walking is quite difficult now. Setting up and down the stairs is an absolute hard work now. It's 100. I might be able to walk a mile, maybe 2 miles, but I don't think I'd even get to 2 miles now. So I do a lot. Yeah, I do. Exercise has, both Mickey and myself, we were physical education teachers. So
that makes three of us. I was one as well, would you believe? Yeah.
So right, that makes you, you know, you have a love of fitness. You have an appreciation of the benefits of being physically fit and healthy. So my lifestyle, you know, I'm retired with 15 years. So obviously you could lead a sedentary lifestyle and do nothing. And I do watch television a lot, but I make sure that at least once a day or twice a day exercise is part of my regime. So my two forms of exercise now are I go swimming at least 5 days a week in the sea for 4 months and in the Kenmare Bay Hotel in the swimming pool. And 5 or 6 days a week, I have an exercise bike and I walk on the exercise bike. So, like, they're basically non-weight bearing, which means that I'm not putting pressure on the knees and I can still maintain the fitness. So, yeah, I like to be fit. I feel good. I don't go on the weighing scales, but when I feel good, I say, well, that's okay for me. So, yeah, no. Exercise is a very important part of my life, and I enjoy it. And you know the thing about exercise, it's not a chore. It becomes part of your day, something you do, and you look back and when you've finished an exercise on the bike or finished a long swim, you feel good after it, whatever, both mentally and physically. So yeah, I look after myself, thanks be to God. My wife says I don't look 70, but she'd be a bit biased and a bit blind. That's what love is. Anyway.
It's like anything. When you have ailments and stuff like that, you cut your cloth to measure and you do what you can do and you don't do what you're not able to do. I was told 10 years ago that I'd need a new knee in 10 years, so I've tried not to run within that time and I don't run anymore, but there's loads of things you can do, be it swimming, be it spinning bikes, be it whatever it is. There's loads you can do to keep fit. But now I get on to you, Pat, and we'll chat to Mickey Ned. Mickey Ned, I was reading earlier in the week where you described Pat, and I was bamboozled by this, where you described Pat when he came into the Kerry squad as a shy and unassuming fella, and I don't know, but that is not the description that most of us would describe Pat by, shall we say.
I suppose, Pat, I would agree with that because Pat was totally focused on becoming a better footballer all the time. So you don't achieve that by talking or you achieve it by focus. And what I noticed in Pat, he was totally focused on becoming a better footballer. And every time he came to training, he improved. That was his sole purpose. He wasn't there to socialise. And the other Pat you got to know was a Pat that was a journalist, or we'll say on television. Now, he wasn't going to improve if he kept his mouth closed. Pat had to throw the cat among the pigeons, and he had to be controversial at times. So that's what he did. He saw what would make him appealing to the audience, and he was able to make those changes, and regardless of the consequence. And that's the focus again. And 30 years later, he's still at it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's all about focus, and it's all about, perseverance.
Mickey Ned, just on that, did that surprise you, the punditry and all that, given the fella you knew in the dressing room?
Yes, it did. Because I remember, I suppose it was 89, was it, Pat? No, sorry, it was about 91 or 92. Pat started, and once he had retired, and I had my reservations. Would he be too quiet?
Go ahead.
At the time.
Jeez, if only you knew.
So he proved us all wrong.
Yeah. Pat, was that something you were very conscious of when you went into the media game? It is a game of relevance in some respect, and you have to speak your mind. Nobody wants someone that's sitting on a fence. And to be fair to you, I don't think you could ever be accused of sitting on any fence.
Well, I suppose in a way it's something that doesn't say upsets me, but sort of irritates me, because, to be quite honest, the present young generation, and there's several generations that probably don't only know me as the guy from the television. They wouldn't. The vast majority on social media wouldn't have a clue that I actually played football. So, like, one of the things I remember when I was writing the last book, and look, I made mistakes in the first book, and I criticised teammates, and I criticised teammates in television, and I regret. To this day, I regret making those statements in my first book, and in some of the statements I gave about my own players. It was a bit stupid, but it was a bit silly. But anyway, I regret them. But like, they think television, and I remember when I wrote my last book, In the Blood, and really it was from the heart, because I wanted a final book. Maybe that's another one, but anyway, I wanted a book that truly reflected what I was as a person, because I felt that in the 30 years I was on television, that had defined who people thought I was. But I wasn't the guy on television, because, as Mickey said, if you say nothing on television, you won't last long. Television is entertainment, it's fun, it's crack, and it's about opinions, and it's about, like I said, it's about entertaining, it's about annoying, infuriating, and whatever like that. But at the end of the day, when they listen to me on television, or maybe Brawley or O'Rourke, they might have agreed with, they might have disagreed with us, but they knew goddamn well what I said or what they said. So look, my footballing career is sort of forgotten by lots of people. So I wanted to write a book that was about me. And Mickey is right. I'm not the person on television. I don't like social gatherings. I like privacy. I like my own company. My ideal weekend would be here with a couple of cans of beer and sport on television morning, noon and night, talking to no one. That's my ideal. Because as Mickey was no different than me. Mickey was born and reared in a bar. Mickey was a teacher all his life. And when you're behind a bar counter, or when you're going to a classroom, you're on a stage, you're performing, you're talking. You have to be in good form. So I've always been on a stage all my life, and I just said, that's not me. I want to be myself. And I'm very much a family man. very much in love with this area, Timperno and Kenmare. And I wanted to write that book to say what I was. And I know it would surprise a lot of people because they said shy. A lot of the lads there was a few comments during the week that I was shy, but people said, that's a lot of shite. But I'm not that person on television. Television was a different form. Television was me being provocative and me being an entertainer and me being loud and whatever like that. And that's what lasted me for so long, you know. And in terms of football, Mickey is right, you know. I mean, I was blessed with my footballing career. I was blessed for several reasons. I was blessed that I came along at the same time when an amazingly special bunch of players also came along in Kerry, with Mickey and the Lynches and Paddy and all of them, Jack O'Shea, the whole gang of them, Mikey Sheehy's, the Bombers, whatever. So I was lucky. I was lucky to have won so many All-Irelands with these guys because they were a band of brothers. And of course, I was privileged and lucky, and I've said it so many times, and Mickey will agree with me, that we came under the influence of the most amazing person, the most amazing manager, the most amazing coach, the most amazing psychiatrist, psychologist, performance coach in the world, and Mickey in Mick O'Dwyer, that made us believe in ourselves, gave us the confidence, and left us off. And in terms of my playing career and in terms of me as a player, I had little or no skill. The Maurice Fitzgeralds, the Mikey Shees, the Gooches, the David Clifford, they have more skill in their small toe than I had in my entire body. But I had two things going for me. I had a good engine and I could kick. And I can't, you know, it's very interesting about coach or trying to become a better player and to try to realise your full potential. Sometimes, I go against the grain. Sometimes people say, you have to be good at catching. You must work on your left, work on your right, you're tackling. Jeez, I couldn't kick a ball with my left foot if my life depended on it. I certainly didn't catch many balls over my head. But I worked on the two things that I was good at. Kicking a ball, and as Mickey will know, I kicked that ball in training. I mean, I was there an hour before training, I was there almost an hour after. I kicked that ball every day. And the second thing was I trained. And Johnny Giles made a similar point, and he said, it's better, he says, to really develop and to make it as a player, that you concentrate on your strengths rather than become maybe a jack of all trades. So that was me. Oh, geez, I was focused. I was horrible as a player. I drove myself to the limit. I demanded excellence from myself, but I also demanded excellence from my teammates. And I look at the Ronan O'Gara's and the Roy Keanes of this world, the Jonathan Sextons, and I say, that was me. I keep wanting better, wanting win, demanding perfection. And I wasn't a nice person on the field because that was my character. I was driven. And I make no apologies because I was horrible on the field. But that shouldn't have defined me. No different than the television. What I said and did on the field shouldn't define me as a person. But no, look, I've been privileged and lucky. And Mickey, by the way, and Mickey's a great friend of mine, and he wrote a lovely few words in the newspapers during the week. Mickey is an absolute gentleman. I was privileged in 1975.
Now we'll get to that later, Pat. We'll get to that in a minute.
But I tell you, you know, and we've remained friends all my life. But I do remember, and Mickey will know, when Mickey took over as manager, I remember getting a phone call on the landline in St. Goblin's, in the staff room in St. Goblin's College in, I think, around 1989, maybe it's 19, I'm bad in years, 1989, and Mickey telling me that I was gone from the panel.
Mickey dropped you, actually.
He did, yeah. Jeez, that was terrible, wasn't it?
How did you remain friends?
I'd like to talk about that, actually.
Come on, fire away.
The most difficult thing in any manager is dropping a player. But dropping Pat was the most difficult thing I ever had to do. And because I played with him, I was a friend of his, management decided we were going for youth. And it was the hardest thing I had ever do, because he was such an icon of Kerry football. But I did say that we'd leave it open if he could prove in maybe a year's time that he was still good enough. the beauty of Pat is that he didn't take it personal, but he focused and he got back even better than what he had been, and proven the management wrong and proved me wrong. But that was the most difficult thing I had ever to do in football, was to drop Pat.
Just on that, go on, Pat.
And in fairness to Mickey, I remember I was dropped once from the team and once from the panel. So the one time I was dropped from the team was for the first round of the National Football League in 1977, and we had been beaten in the All-Ireland semi-final, and I was dropped. I was a sub for the first game of the National League. But this is the difference between Mick the rogue and Mickey the honest manager. Mick rang me to say, he says, the team was picked. He says, I never made the selectors meeting that night. They'll have to drop you. I couldn't get over it. He said, that was a mistake, but look, it'll be all right. You'll come on after a few minutes. Of course, Mick knew I was being dropped, but he still patted me up and massaged my ego, saying that it was a mistake. If he had been there, I wouldn't have been dropped. 99% certain Mickey was there. But I always remember with Mickey, and anyone who knows Mickey Ned O'Sulluvan will know, what you get is the most honest, genuine person on and off the field ever. And I remember he rang me that day. It was the call came through to the staff room, and I remember taking it. And of course, you'd be, I'd spent my life devoting my life to Kerry football, and that was it. And I had a great career. I had 8 All-Ireland medals won at that stage. I had the All-Stars. I had nothing done. But the one thing I always said that when I'm going to finish playing, I want to finish on my own terms at the top, not somebody telling me you're gone, you're finished. I want somebody to tell me, geez, you should stay on for another year. And in sport, and it was Enoch Powell, the politician, once said, the life of politicians inevitably end in failure, the careers of, and it's no different than inter-county players. The majority of inter-county players' careers end in failure because most inter-county players get the last hurrah wrong. Everyone thinks there's one more year in this, there's one last hurrah. And in fairness, Dwyer thought there was a last hurrah in it, so he crucified Australian. There was no last hurrah in this. But I remember that day, I can still, at this 11 o'clock break, I can picture it to this day. And I remember getting the call, and because it was in the staff room, I wasn't going to be roaring.
I was just going to say to you, he was clever enough. He knew there'd be a crowd around and that you couldn't come back at him.
There was no mobile phone. So I remember, I just took it on board, and I had a free class after. I had 2 free classes after. This is a fact now. And I never forget, I went into the PE teacher's office where the footballs and that. And I sat at my desk, and for about, I swear to God, for 10 minutes, I'd say I cried and cried. To me, that was the end of the world, because my life was football. And you know what? After about 10 minutes, and this is me, always through life, I told you this before, that Mick always instilled in us the belief that our glass was half full. Always. And that was something I carried. I always believed in myself. Always believed my glass was half full. Always believed that I could dare to dream, and I would dream. But anyway, I sat for 10 minutes. I never forget. I swear to God, I'll never forget it. I sat for 10 minutes crying. And I said, what? And you know what I did? I tugged off, and I ran like a maniac for 45 minutes around the school football pitch. And I did that. I swear to God, I did the best impression of Forrest Gump for the next 2 years. Run Forrest Gump, run Pat, run. Every evening after, I trained, and this is a fact, I trained 12 times a week after that, Monday to Saturday, twice a day, to make myself into the fittest, the lightest I ever was, and to prove that I could make it. And Mickey, I played brilliant in a couple of club matches, and in fairness to Mickey, a man of his words, brought me back. I played a couple of more years. I played 90. We had a brilliant year in 91. We beat Cork down in Killarney, beat Limerick in a Munster final. But touch and go with Down in the semi-final. And I remember looking around that day then after 1991, and I knew I just stood on the Hogan in the Crow Park pitch, looked at the Hogan stand and just said, this is brilliant. But you know what? If Mickey had rang me following you and said, come back for another year, geez, I'd have come back, but he didn't ring any. But no, so like, I got a second chance, so Mickey was fair, and I took that chance, and like, it was, like, we had some great years in 91. Anyway.
As well as being great friends, lads, you're obviously, like, totally intertwined in 1975 in a roundabout way, or not a roundabout way, a fairly direct way, and a fairly direct challenge from Sean Doherty led to, Pat, one of your greatest ever moments. We might just play through a little bit of audio here. Mickey Ned, I'm going to apologise in advance for this, because you probably don't remember much about this.
Take that pass as he sends it to Paddy Lynch, and here comes Kerry again. Mickey Sullivan going racing through. Alan Larkin's in front of him. He's got past Alan Larkin. Paddy Riley's after him. Georgie Wilson's after him. Everybody's after him. He's well and truly looked after now. He's down, and it is another photo finish as to whether it's a free or a penalty. Here's how it happened. He's still going through, and he is eventually... He's tripped, he's fouled about 3 times there, and this free is just about a foot, if it is a foot, outside the 14-yard line. And Mickey Sullivan is the one who is down injured.
If it happened now, there'd be life sentences handed out. Mickey Ned, as a result of that, you were captain that day in 75. You didn't get to lift Sam Maguire. Pat, as vice-captain, as a 19-year-old, lifted it, which must have been unbelievable. But Mickey Ned, talk to me about that. Like, it's crazy. I know you got your hands on Sam Maguire a good few years after, but one of the most iconic sequences of play in GAA history.
Well, I suppose football was different that time. And, you know, you that was part and parcel of the game. And if backs didn't put in the you know, what we call a strong tackle, they were no good. And it was part and parcel of the game, and you just accepted these things. And it had happened to me a number of times before that. And, you know, there's no point crying over spilt milk. It happened. We won the game, and that's all that mattered. And incidentally, the man that was reputed to have ended me that day was Sean Doherty, and we became incredibly good friends after that. And we built up a great friendship. Anytime I'd go to Dublin, we'd meet for a pint or a meal. Sorry about that. And we were so shocked this year to lose Sean. And he was a gentleman and very respected by the Kerry players and by the Dublin players. So and you know, we met this year, and Pat was there and with the Dublin players in April. And it wasn't about how many medals each player won. It was about the friendships and the respect that they had for one another, and 50 years later. And that, to me, reflected the importance of Gaelic football. It's really about the friends, and then to meet regularly and to go through each other's journey since they retired. But they had a similar journey, and they had a lot in common, and they had great mutual respect.
It's gas, isn't it? All the great rivals, they're wearing a different jersey, but when you get to know them off the pitch, sure, they're all the same. They have the same motivation, the same goals, the same drive, don't they?
Yes, and it's an aspect of Gaelic games that isn't promoted as much as it should be, because it's like out of sight, out of mind. That I remember that time we'd travel, we'll say for a National League game, to Dublin, and you shook hands with the player and you never again saw these players. That was wrong. It should be, both teams should have been brought together for a cup of tea or a sandwich or a drink. And when they retire, county boards should organise regular group meetings of these players, because they had great respect for each other, but they probably never met again. We never met. Apart from, with most intercounty players, never meet their opposition. Maybe they might, by a coincidence, afterwards. Kerry and Dublin were fortunate because they'd meet in all-star trips and something like that. But if you were from a lesser known intercounty team, you never got these opportunities.
Yeah, totally, yeah. Pat, I know Mickey Ned has to go in a second. Could you just, on air and on record, just give him a big thanks for you getting your hands on Sam McGuire in 75?
Just because obviously Mickey, got took like I often said, geez, I'd love to have been a Sunday game analyst that night dealing with that incident, because it was manna from heaven. Like, you were being supplied with your sound bites, because and obviously Mickey got, I don't know, there was at least 6 challenges or 5 challenges that just should have been red carded, by 5 different players. Now, and obviously Mickey got concussed, and obviously he's still not sure. It's reputed that Sean Doherty hit the 5, but it wasn't reputed. It was factual, and we met Sean down lately, and it was amazing. And yeah, it gave me like one of the ultimates in life as a GAA player is to get the opportunity to walk up the steps of the Hogan stand and to lift and accept Sam Maguire on behalf of your county. And Mickey was taken away to hospital before half-time. The selectors, because Kenmare had won the county championship in 1974. Mickey was the captain, I was the vice-captain. And the selectors didn't bother telling me, or the boy didn't bother telling that I would be the captain with Mickey away. But they only told me after, by the way, you're the captain, you're going up and taking the cup. And I always remember the head steward that time in Croke Park, when I was going up, because Mickey is a fluent Gael goer and taught in Ballyvourney. In actual fact, Mickey took a career leave of absence to study career guidance in Dublin. And I replaced Mickey in his job in Coloshdiesagan in Ballyvourney, one of the greatest schools that was ever existed. But anyway, I was going up and I know why, in fairness to Mickey, I spent a year replacing Mickey in Coloshdiesagan in Ballyvourney, an all-Irish boarding school, day boarding school. Now, you got extra money for teaching through Irish, and there was one minor problem. I didn't have any Irish. It was very bad. And 75 was proof of that, because I remember asking the steward when I was going up the steps, I said, oh, geez, what is the Irish for on behalf of? I still remember, our son. So I'll give you my speech now. Ta Anna As Orum, on Corninshaw Glocka, our son Fern Kyrie, and maybe 1 or 2 words. Rest assured, it was the worst. It would be the worst speech ever given by a captain on All-Ireland final day. But yeah, so I got the privilege, unfortunately, because of Mickey's enforced absence. And Mickey is an absolute gentleman, and Mickey's I cannot reiterate enough what Mickey said about the Dubs. It's gas. We were bitter enemies on the field. We hit, we belted, whatever like that. But off the field, to this day, we still remain. They were great friends. They're great lads, great warriors, great ambassadors for the GAA. And Mickey is brilliant for organising. We had the most wonderful 2 days in Kenmare this year with the Kerry and Dubs from 1975. An absolute beautiful few days. And like Mickey said, it wasn't talking about how many medals you had. It was just reminiscing about life. And just as a useless piece of information, T.G. Carr did a load of filming for those couple of days. And on the 22nd of December, on Monday night, there is a programme on it. And beautiful. I think, as Mickey said, Mickey might explain more, but it's basically reflecting on what that Dublin-Kerry rivalry, what it did for the GAA in the 70s, because Mickey will, and I leave Mickey maybe elaborate on it, because Kerry-Dublin, what it meant for the GAA, what it did for the GAA was unbelievable. And I think Mickey would be better able to encapsulate what Kerry-Dublin did for the GAA.
Mickey, I'll give you the closing verse on that, and I know you have to go.
This documentary is being done by T.G. Carr, and the name of it is An Réabhlóid Sóisialta sna Seachta Dí, the social revolution of this in Gaelic football in the 70s, and what Dublin and Kerry rivalry did for for the, we'll say, Gaelic games in Dublin. Prior to that time, Gaelic games was 5% penetration level in Dublin. Now it's probably 50%. But that was brought about by that Dublin team and that Kerry rivalry in Dublin. And you had hence the Heffo's Army, and that time it was prior to that was identification with Manchester United, Liverpool. Suddenly they had an identification of Heffo's Army, and it permeated through into the culture of Dublin to where it is so strong now as a result of that. Yeah. Before I leave, I'd like to extend birthday greetings to Pat, and that he has another 70 in many years to come. And incidentally, we'll be meeting again in 2 nights' time.
Tell him what it's about, Mickey.
Next Friday night, the 75 to 86 Kerry teams are coming together to celebrate their achievement 50 years ago. And the interesting thing is, I don't think there'll ever be a gathering like this in Gaelic games where you have a Gaelic football panel coming together that between them they would have close to 200 All-Ireland football senior medals.
Wow, yeah.
That will never happen in modern Gaelic football.
Well, they might pull the Dubs together at some stage, and maybe the Kilkenny hurlers as well.
There'll be a lot more of them there.
Wishing him every happiness and going forward.
Thank you, Michal.
Right, and so we'll see you on Friday night. And thanks again for having me on.
Anna Wire, Father Vihil, Mila Margaret. Pat, I'm going to keep you for a couple of minutes.
Actually, it is interesting, Michael, on the Friday night function, there's almost 800 people going, and it's nice to be recognised, but the money is going to raising money for the Kerry Centre of Excellence in Corn. It's 5,000 a table, so it's a lot of money. So it's nice to know that there's a lot of people. There's such a huge interest. There's a lot of people going, and a lot of money will be raised for the future of Kerry football with the Centre of Excellence. And there's also money being donated to charity as well. So it's a great occasion. It's nice. It's always nice to be recognised, even when you get into the 70s, whatever like that. And it's like the famous joke, and we're not comparing who was the greatest team and who was the greatest manager, but it was the famous joke asked after Dublin had won the 6 in a row, and somebody said that allegedly the joke was, somebody asked me would your team beat this Dublin 6 in a row team? Allegedly Joanne Campbell asked me in the Sunday game, well, Pat, would this Dublin 6 in a row team beat your team? And Pat Spalan said, allegedly, well, Joanne, I don't think we'd beat this Dublin team. I think maybe they might beat us by 2 or 3 points. And Joanne was incredulous. She said, I'm surprised you said that, Pat. Well, she said, then Pat Spillane allegedly said, well, Joanne, we are in our 60s and 70s after all. Anyway, my Kerry joke.
Pat, a couple of questions I'd like to just ask you not before we finish up, but there's a few things I wanted to circle back to. You were one of the first GAA players to ever do the cruciate and come back from it. I know from chatting guys that played various sports even around 70s, 80s, once the cruciate was done, that was that. You went to, what sort of study and even research did you do? You went to England, I believe. Did you go swimming, maniacally almost, to get fit and stay fit?
I think that that's something that's often forgotten about my footballing career. I literally missed, Michael, the 3 best years of my footballing career. And I've had a great, I have the All-Stars, I have the All-Ireland medals. I've had a brilliant career. But I genuinely missed almost the 3 best years of my footballing career because of an ACL injury. And it's gas, when I was told that it was a cruciate ligament, at that stage in the 80s, in the early 80s, you did a cruciate ligament. And that was the end of your career. You never played again. And I always remember getting my arthroscopy done in a hospital in Cork. And Dr. Con Murphy and the orthopaedic surgeon came in. And the orthopaedic surgeon, I said, well, what's the story? He says, you've ruptured your anterior cruciate ligament. And I said to him, is that serious? He said, you'll never play football again. Now, this is me at 26 years of age, 27 years of age in my prime. So I missed 27, 28, 29. Like, they're the big years. Anyway, Dr. Con Murphy, the greatest living person in the GAA world, a friend and a mentor, and looked after me for years. But Dr. Con came back into the room 20 minutes later. And, Dr. Con was no different than the wire, and he filled you with positivity. But I was left to my own because, like I said, there was no history of no record of any person in Ireland playing sport after rupturing a cruciate ligament. So we just explored, and I had an uncle who was a chaplain in Glasgow Celtic, Reverend Canon Lyne, and at the time he was great friends with Jock Steen and all those, and through the Celtic connections, and David Hay perhaps was the manager around the time. And anyway, we found out that one of the ex-Celtic players who subsequently became a Scottish team, a guy called George Burley, had ruptured his cruciate ligament and had come back playing again. So I said, right, I'll find out. Where did Burley got the operation done in Cambridge in England by a guy called Mr. David Dandy, who had come back from Colorado. Obviously Colorado, the skiing capital of the world, a surgeon used to dealing with lower limb injuries. Anyway, I discovered that Dandy was operating in Cambridge. And I, on my own, this was like the one thing, like there was two things I discovered. Like when you're out of football, when you're injured, you're forgotten about. You're on your own. And I remember I was on my own, and I paid most of the money to go to England to get the operation myself.
Go away, really?
Yeah, Kerry County Board did contribute, but it cost me a lot of money to do it. And like there was still no guarantee. But the one thing, I got it done in England. And I vowed, like, I would come back fitter and stronger than ever. And there was two things, and I drove myself to manic. I mean, I became so obsessive after that. I went to a different level in terms of training, in terms of mentality, in terms of focus. There was two things I regretted when I thought I'd never again play football again. And there was two things I regretted. And there was two things. The two things were, one, that I never celebrated properly when we won stuff. And I said, geez, if I ever get the chance to celebrate again. And it's a message to everyone, don't take success for granted. Enjoy, celebrate success. And I said, if I ever win anything again, geez, I'll celebrate success. That's number one. And the second thing was, if I come back, I said, I'm doing it for myself. Because, when you were out and you were recuperating, there was very few people, Mickey did, very few, the amount of people that contacted me in those couple of years were on one hand. Honestly, I know the lie, the truth. So you were very much on your own. And I became very insular, very focused. I built my legs into the strongest legs in Ireland. And I can tell you an example, I was training so hard to try to come back again. And I was privileged and lucky that I was able to come back again. I came back again with no guarantee that, because nowadays with the advances in medicine and the advances in physiotherapy and all are so good, in those days it was on your own. You were making it up as you went along. But I remember, and I've said this so many times, I remember the worst one was the 30 and 40 laps of Timpano pitch with 10-pound weights tied around my ankles. It was like, can you understand why I have bad knees now? It was ridiculous. But I did that. There was a hill over the road from the bar, 100 metres up high, muddy hill. And I would do 20 or 30 sprints up that 100 metre with those 10-pound weights. Jesus. And signs on, the Monday before the All-Ireland final in 1984, people said, well, people are way fitter nowadays. I can tell you, I had a cold. I went to the doctor, and my resting pulse rate the Monday of the All-Ireland before 84, my first All-Ireland final back after recovery, was 34 was my resting pulse rate. The winner of the Olympic marathon that year in Los Angeles, where John Tracy did so brilliantly, Carlos Lopez of Portugal, his resting pulse rate was also 34. That was the level of fitness.
It's nearly like a corpse, Pat.
it was manic. It was, and like I said, I had 5 All-Ireland medals. I had 6 All-Stars at that stage, but I wanted to come back and prove that I could come back. And it was, like, I'm paying the price now, but Jesus, Michael, if you, like, and I have, like I said, I can't walk and I can't jog and I can't run. I can walk very limited and I have pain and I can't go up the steps. But if you said to me, if you got a chance, Pat, to do it all over again, would you do it? By Jesus, Michael, I'd do every second of it, because I loved every, of the 70 years I've been in this world, I've loved every second of the 70 years. And I've been privileged to meet so many great people. And it's funny enough, normally you have to die to get your tribute. And this week, you know, in fairness, like some of the messages, and even on Temple Knowles, GA's Facebook and in Kerry, some just beautiful messages. And it's nice, you know, because sometimes you say, geez, you're a bollocks, but you shouldn't have said this, did that, and like I said, people don't know me, so I like, no, it's been good. But the ACL was like, now it's so common, but they're back in 9 to 11 months. But in those days, being told never to play football again was just.
The Irish thing, Pat, they say the only way, like, you get to hear anybody say anything good about yourselves is nearly to, like, fake your own death and be there in the coffin and listen to what people are saying.
Look, I've been lucky to be born into a great family, the Spillane family. Look, we were born into a small little bar in Timpano that 3 brothers came out of it with 19 All-Ireland senior football medals. Privileged to have been born and reared in a beautiful area in here in Kerry, in Timpano. Privileged to have played with Timpano. Privileged to have played with Kerry. And I've enjoyed my life. I love teaching. And you repeat, I love teaching. I had 30 brilliant years with great kids in St. Gobin's College in Bench. And look, the television was a roller coaster ride for years, but I enjoyed it.
Just on that, Pat, did you ever, the hate figure is very strong, but like you were a bit of a, you know, you put yourself out there and said things, and whether it was Tyrone people or whether it was Jim McGuinness or whoever it was, did that ever get to you? You want to have a thick skin now?
You know, in the latter years, like, I was lucky that social media has only now really gone bananas.
Yeah.
But in the latter couple of years of social media, it was getting fairly, you know, it was getting, like, there's gas, but to be quite honest, you know, if you're obsessed and worried about the minority, like, and then you're in trouble, you know. It doesn't bother me. Like, I was looking, like, I'd look sometimes at whatever if I write about it. Look, you know goddamn well, Michael, when, like, you wouldn't last 10 days in television, or you wouldn't last 10 days in this business if you were being bland and middle of the road and sitting on the fence. You've got to give an opinion. And like, anyone who knows me, I call something exactly as I see it. You know, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. If it's a bad match, it's a bad match.
You're not being anyone but yourself, Pat. Like, that's who you are. Right? Like,
that is, and I swear to God, okay, like, if you look at over the 30 years, yeah, once or twice I strayed into personal, but very rarely, if you look at all the criticism down, very rarely have I gone into personal. But like, I call somebody as I see it, and if you're calling somebody as you see it, you're being honest. And if you're being honest, I think that's all you can ask for. But like, sometimes, like, I get intrigued, and like, I'd write articles and they'd be like, great. They get huge. I mean, they're still to this day, like, and I'd still love to do some, like, I love the podcast. This is brilliant, because you're sitting here at the kitchen table and you're expounding your views and you're upsetting people and people are agreeing with you, but that's exactly what it is. And as somebody said, look, and probably the last unscripted pundit left in Irish sport, and it's probably true, because I don't have an agenda, I don't have a script, I speak from the heart. But like, the criticisms, I take it with a grain of salt. I saw last week, now there was two on social media, but there are 2 prominent guys on social media, and they were criticising what I was saying about something. And I was saying, oh Jesus, hold a minute, that name and those 2 guys, I refused interviews with them lately. I said, I wonder would that be? And of course it is, yeah. But Jesus Christ Almighty, you know, for fuck's sake, look, it's a matter of opinion. Like Oscar Wilde said, there's only one thing worse than being talked about, and that's
not being talked about. Yeah. Last one, Pat. I don't know how we've gotten through as long as we have without talking about, like, surely one of your biggest regrets. And I actually was speaking to Seamus Darby earlier this morning. He's golfing. That's why he's not with us on the podcast. He said he would have only loved to sew it into you on the podcast. But have you any regrets? Do you look back and say, oh, I shouldn't have said this, shouldn't have done that?
You do, of course you do, yeah. But that's it. Like as I said it earlier on, talking about my teammates in the first book and mentioned talking about, but yeah, one son, you have a couple, but like in 30 years of, like I've been writing in the newspaper industry now with the Sunday World and now the Irish Independent. I started in 1991 and I haven't missed a Sunday or a week since 1991.
You're joking me. You never took any week off.
I have never missed a Sunday, and that's, what is that, 34 years, no Sunday missed.
34 by 52, that's what, over like 1,500 to go to 1,600 columns.
Yeah, so I've never missed. Yeah, and to survive, you don't survive in this business without being sitting on the fence. So, of course, I have regrets. But look, like one thing I do, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I accept an apology. But like life goes on, Anyway.
Yeah, brilliant, Pat. That's absolutely super. I wonder, did you get did you have 70 candles on the cake, or did you just have a big 7-0 in the middle of the cake, or what way did you do it?
It's been a 70 that has stretched out a bit. Like I said, myself and the family of 5, we spent 5 days in Nashville celebrating the 70th. Myself and my wife went for a week to Lanzarote, and I wanted a quiet 70th, and we went to a beautiful place down in West Cork. And I'm not an influencer or a vlogger, so I'm not getting paid for it. But I went to a beautiful place in Chidani in West Cork on the beautiful beach. I stopped in a hotel in the Celtic Ross in Rosscarbery. Going there, 3 women came out of the kitchen with a birthday cake singing happy birthday to me. When I got into Donny, same thing. 3 people came out of the kitchen with another birthday cake singing, and it got lovely wishes, and you start to say, it's nice to be. It's nice to people. Like social media is huge now, like I said. I mean, that's and the birthday got so many social media. So I look at that. Chuffed, I'm happy and delighted to. Some of my teammates wrote lovely stuff, and sure, it's nice. I take any, like Babs Keating said, there's 6 inches between the pat in the back and the kick up, where. So these last couple of days was mainly all pat in the backs, and I liked it. It was nice to be appreciated.
Good man.
Good life.
You have fairly stretched it out. It's almost been like a retirement tour. This birthday has gone on I think it's about 6 weeks ago. You were telling me about Nashville, and we're still talking about 70 now.
I know that, and I don't celebrate birthdays. I don't. Life goes on, but like it's nice this week. Like I said, that we have the get together of the 75 to 1986 Kerry team. That's a nice special occasion as well. And we're missing 3 of our players, and we're missing the man that made it all for us, Miko. But life goes on, and like I said, my father got to only 41 or 42. I've been privileged and lucky to get to 70 and. God, if we get another 70, if we get another couple, we'll be happy out.
Good man. Pat, the heartiest of birthday wishes to you. And we'll talk football and go in depth and granular on football the next time we're chatting, all right?
All my notes for the club championship and all that, all wasted today.
Never wasted. And at least, listen, your big page of notes is a lot more than Joe Brolly used to have in his notes beside you, by all accounts. Pat, thanks very much. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks, Michael. Good luck.
Come on.